Will Mitch Marner hit 100 points on the season for the first time? That is our first topic of conversation here in the FanDuel 5 most intriguing betting storylines for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Coco, you're huge on Marner this year. Does he get to 100 plus?
I'm betting on it because if there's a year to do it, it's this year because it's his contract year. He's looking for a massive payday. And if there's something that Mitch Marner hasn't done yet in his personal career, it hasn't eclipsed 100 points. He's reached 90 plus in 3 of those seasons, including 2 of the last 3. Last year, he was on a point per game pace, but clearly missed a few games. So if there's a season for Marner to do it, it's this one. Austin Matthews eclipsed 100 last year. He's going to be playing most of the season with Austin Matthews. You talk about the big year we all expect Marner to have. I expect him to eclipse and finally have his first 100-point season.
Well, remember what William Nylander did the first 25 games of the season? Got him a contract extension. Maybe the same can be said for number 16.
Almost got him close to 100, too. Finished
Very
at 98.
Close. Very close. The Leafs with 102 points as a team last year. FanDuel has them at 102.5. It's like the sports books know what they're doing. This is an organization that has gone way over that number in a couple of the last few years. What do you make of their chances to do it again this year?
I really like their chances for many reasons. One, vastly improved goaltending with Joseph Wall, who I strongly believe in. You can bring in Anthony Stolarz, who can create a great tandem. An improved defense with the size and the veteran experience that they brought in with Tanev and with Oliver Ekman-Larsson. And a new coach with Craig Berube. And if you look at this Maple Leafs team, they're one of the few teams in the NHL that has been able to stay at the steady 100-plus point pace in the flat cap era. Think about that. Flat cap era. You haven't had much wiggle room to improve your roster, and the Maple Leafs have done it consistently. 115, 111, 102. Because of the division they play in. We're all waiting for the bottom half of this division to finally catch up to the top 4. But I'm in the boat where I'll believe it when I see it. We're giving these teams a chance that they'll finally catch up. And because of that, I think the Maple Leafs are putting themselves in a great position to have a great season, surpassing that 102-point total.
Well, let's talk about the division. The Florida Panthers are the favorites at plus 230, followed by the Toronto Maple Leafs at plus 270. Toronto has never won the Atlantic Division. They did win the North Division, Coco, which I know you remember, but not the Atlantic Division. Is this the year the Leafs finally get it done?
Well, that just means they're due, right? If they haven't done it, this is their time. And if you look at the teams that they're competing against, it's really between them and 3 other teams, Boston, Florida, Tampa. As I mentioned before, we're waiting for the bottom half of that division to finally catch up. But Boston, you know, Swayman hasn't been around camp. How long does it take for him to get into his form throughout this season? Florida, 2 long playoff runs. Are they motivated to be a top team in the regular season, or are they just focused on getting into the playoffs? And Tampa, they're starting a season without the face of their franchise in Steven Stamkos, and a guy who's been a key piece to their power play and the success that they've had throughout his time there. So what type of team are we going to see for them? I think Toronto's starting in a really strong position, and at plus 270 right now, you're getting great value for them to win their first division ever.
I think even greater value, in my opinion, is betting Boston to win a division at plus 470. A couple of really shrewd offseason acquisitions, bringing in Zadorov on the back end. Elias Lindholm is now their number 1 center. This is a team that had 109 points last season in spite of some lackluster performers down the middle. The regular season notwithstanding, we certainly saw that in the postseason. I am very curious to see how the Bruins look. Plus 470 may be worth a sprinkle. Let's talk about your former head coach, Coco. Craig Berube. You guys were together in Philadelphia in 2014. Now you're together, kinda, here in Toronto. The Coach of the Year conversation is always one that sometimes is a little bit difficult to discern, in that what is the real qualification to win the award? Is it the team that exceeds expectations? And I think for Craig Berube to do that as the coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs, they would have to win the Atlantic Division for sure, and they might have to be vying for the President's Trophy as well. When it comes to Berube and his candidacy to win the Jack Adams, how do you see that unfolding?
Well, I see there's tremendous value in betting it at plus 1,200 because you look at you look at the coaching positions that were available in the offseason. Was there a better position to walk into as a free agent coach than the Toronto Maple Leafs, where it's a team that's ready to win, ready to take that next step? It's a team that's filled with high-end talent. And for Berube, walking into this situation, there's only great expectations that are expected. So if he meets those great expectations and takes them to places they've never been before, like winning a division, maybe advancing further into the playoffs, he absolutely is a strong candidate. And we always look at fresh faces in new places when talking about who's going to win that award. And clearly Sheldon Keefe's the favorite at plus 700, walking into a similar situation in New Jersey where they are a favorite to win the Stanley Cup too. And Travis Green, if he can help put the Ottawa Senators in playoff contention, maybe seek into the playoffs, he'll be a strong candidate too. But for Berube and the position he has, coaching the team that he has, tremendous value at plus 1,200.
A bet I kind of like for Jack Adams is Mike Sullivan to win the award at 30-1, simply because expectations for the Penguins are so low. People are writing them off, saying that Crosby should be demanding a trade, saying they're too old. What if they do find a way to get on the rails? What if they do find a way to get that power play cooking, something that they were unable to do all of last season? They could sneak in, and I think Sullivan would be a viable candidate for the Jack Adams Award.
And the Metro is wide open,
sure.
AK.
That's exactly it. Right? That's exactly it. All right, Austin Matthews, Coco, scored 69 goals last year. Very curious to see what type of encore performance we can expect as the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He is plus 850 to win the Hart Trophy. Is that something you may consider playing?
Well, AK, we've clearly created the path for all this stuff to happen. And if it does happen, there's a good chance we're going to look like geniuses on this because we predicted it before the season started. But for Austin Matthews, it's all about his greatness. 69 goals. The fact that he scored 69 and didn't win the Hart Trophy last year really puts things into perspective of the competition he's up against. And talking about the likes of McKinnon, McDavid, Kucherov. And, you know, these guys are always going to be in that conversation. I think for Matthews, because he's won it before and because he had the season he has last year, he's always going to be in that conversation. But everything has to line up in the way that we did, because every year we see more young players or other players put themselves in that conversation with the years that they're having. So for Austin Matthews to win it and everything to fall into place the way that we predict the other sort of odds or other sort of futures that we looked at to play out, everything has to follow this type of path. And if it does, Austin Matthews at plus 850, that's tremendous value that you could potentially be cashing in on.
Well, we know there's a script in the National Football League at the beginning of the season. I think Leaf fans hope that our script is the one that Gary Bettman decides to use in 2024, 2025. Leafs, Habs tonight to kick off the season. This has been the FanDuel 5 most intriguing betting storylines for the Toronto Maple Leafs.